Deleted session, October 10th, 1977. Now, good evening. This is not dictation. Let us look at a simple event involving your two visitors. I want to use this as a case in point, showing how desire brings about its own fulfillment when possible. Anything possible is probable. The young lady wanted to see the both of you vividly enough so that desire, with no effort on her part, was a reality in Framework 2. Miss Dinning liked people and would be quite lonely were it not for the desire to meet with and enjoy other people. She particularly enjoys unusual people, or foreigners, and chance encounters. Otherwise, she is a rather solitary person, but her desire for such encounters exists with no effort on her part in Framework 2. You have then to separate people living in different countries, completely unknown to each other, of different ages and backgrounds. In Framework 2, however, again, time and space are not barriers, and there are no impediments in usual terms. Laws of attraction operate in far too complicated ways to explain with any real preciseness. Emotional computations and associations occur there with incalculable rapidity. Data is sorted out, arranged and rearranged, as if associations were tabulated and retabulated under a million different headings. Using such a psychic computer, information was sorted and resorted. Probabilities examined, some discarded because the conditions were not apropos. Miss Dinnan this evening was looking for a small adventure. She met two delightful strangers, mere foreigners. She will tell the story to friends. The meeting then originally was planned in Framework 2. In case your young visitor, the woman, Rob noted Carol, said now, did not meet you. She had insisted in her mind that she would meet someone who knew you or had some personal connection somehow. Remember, you two were involved, with your probabilities and free will. Until Ruber was at his desk this evening, he did not finally decide whether or not he would agree the strangers you knew had earlier tried to reach you. He played with the idea of checking some notes and then taking his chapter. Rob noted on James. Said to the living room table and darkening his room. In that case, the young woman would still have met someone who had a connection with him. At the last moment, however, before you left, Ruber made up his mind and told you to unlock the porch door. Rob noted when Carol opened the screen door, she let Willie too out, but picked him up easily. Said, Miss Dinnan remembers you kindly also because of Miss Gallagher, of course. The organization in Framework 2 is entirely different than your ordinary experience. Events are put together in a different fashion. Neither Miss Dinnan or the young woman planned the physical events directly as they occurred. They did not think of detail, and the details were arranged more beautifully and precisely than would be possible in conscious physical terms. The details just seemed to fall into place. This sort of thing happens frequently with Miss Dinnan, and consciously she is drawn toward areas of town, for example, in which certain individuals are shopping or strolling, so that while she visits few fashionable establishments, she enjoys a series of seemingly unrelated, pleasant encounters with strangers. She was drawn to shop when she did for that reason, and also because of the personal connection. How strange that she should have anything in common with these visitors from Canada. The whole affair happened like a native event. The methods that the girl used, the young woman, in the various adventures she related to you, occurred in the same way. Robert's book, in all cases, faith is involved, and the feeling that all in all, the means will come or be given. The means are then arranged in framework 2. Later, for the book, I will use this sort of explanation to show, for example, how various groups of people planning, say, a vacation to one spot will all choose 2 or 3 airplanes for the journey, knowing unconsciously quite well that one very well might crash, even though the final decision is not made until the last moment. I am trying to give you different kinds of examples, showing how work is practically done in Framework 2, that then appears in Framework 1 as physical events. In terms of Ruber's flexibility, I always take your present level of practical comprehension into mind, for I know quite well that your reactions to what I say will vary according to your own situations at any given time. So far, you have been hesitant, Ruber particularly, but both of you, to release or express that desire for no more physical flexibility on Ruber's part. And also, you will have compared his present condition unfavorably with the desired end, simply involving yourselves in contradictions. I said that I did not want you to compare his condition to the ideal one, and that certainly still stands. If, however, you understand what I am saying about Framework 1 and 2, then you can express and release that desire fully and without fear, knowing that the meanings or the details, the way, will be found in Framework 2 to bring about the desired results. To do this properly, however, you must not check at every moment in Framework 1. If our young woman of this evening had done that, she would have hopelessly complicated matters. She would have looked at a map and said, someone in one of those houses must have had a personal contact with the Bootses. In case we do not meet them, I will try every third house, or I will go to the police department, or to the newspaper. All quite practical ideas. She did in fact go to a bookstore, but in so doing she killed 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak, for she found your address in the phone book, but also just happened to run into Miss Dinny, and that was something that only a thorough canvassing of the town might produce. The freely expressed desire will bring its own results, and in retrospect everything will fall into place. Ruber's body is expressing as much of that desire as he, and secondly you, have felt free enough to express. Release the desire into Framework 2. Remember the examples I have given you. Ruber is making inroads, learning not to project negatively. That is highly important and must be stressed. Give us a moment. You must remind yourselves that these methods work. Your creative work and all of the other elements of your lives show this, including your financial security. The fear that the methods will not work in any one regard inhibits the process. As if our young woman said, I am sure I will not meet the Bootses, although I want to. Then the connection would not have been nearly as strong in Framework 2. I am trying to make conscious to you methods that you use willfully, unconsciously, and will in other areas of your living. Our young woman selectively interpreted her experience with the interpretation of names, for example, as given this evening. But that selectivity led her exactly where she wanted to go, and in certain terms, she actually did ignore any data that did not lead her in a desired direction. So, while it may seem impractical, you do the same thing when you selectively pay attention to Ruber's improvements and selectively ignore areas of difficulty. You build a new orientation, which then becomes the actual one. In areas of conflict, you have to learn to do this consciously, while in areas of success, you have done it unconsciously all along. Many of Ruber's joints, particularly in the neck, feet, and the knees, are loosening considerably. Their motion is all connected, of course. This causes the muscles to change, and in particular, their tension is altered. When his weight is on his feet, when they are ready, the joints and the feet try new positions that at the time they might not be able to maintain. It is impossible to be consciously aware of all such motions. There has been new activity in the knees, in those joints that would allow him to kick out in such a fashion. This can cause some feelings of instability when he is walking, but the body must also try out its positions when he is on his feet. If you concentrate upon the improvements, you will see that some sensations that at first appear uncomfortable are not detrimental at all, but a part of the body's recovery. He favored certain portions of the neck and shoulders. The tension on the neck tendons is loosening, and this definitely affects the eyes. Placing your desire in framework 2 will automatically, however, minimize stages of change, and automatically take care of many details in a much more pleasant fashion. Again, obviously, suggestion plays an important part. Give us a moment. Ruber should tell you, as you told him, when he finds himself in a particularly blue mood or projecting negatively, but he does catch such situations better than he did. That release of desire is all important, however. What I have given you this evening can be of the utmost help, and trust your own living material. Now I will end the session, or take a break as you prefer. Ross said we'll take the break. They said, now give us a moment. You must remember that there are no impediments in framework 2, and therefore that all seeming impediments in framework 1 will be dissolved. You must not wonder how or dwell upon details. It is the overall pattern of behavior we are after here. I am not telling you to be blind in daily experience, but I am telling you how daily experience is formed. In its own way, the Jane's connection happened in the same fashion. For your desires and beliefs go out in all directions in time. Your contacts outlive your deaths. The particular connections here are too complicated to try to explain, but they do involve Jane's intense interest during his life in the future of his own work, and in the state of the psychic field of the future. I am sometimes at a loss for words, believe it or not, for often explanations make things sound more difficult than they are. All of this happens quite naturally. To some extent or another, after that, you retain psychic connections with anyone you have ever met during a lifetime. The connections can be strong or weak, some important, some trivial, but they form a psychic network, so to speak. That network can be put together in different ways and used now in an analogy as a communications system. All in all, it will mean that, generally speaking, you will keep in contact with areas of thought or development in which you were once interested, and will be able, if you wish, to follow their development in time. The living people so involved in this network will have their own other encounters, of course, but again, through a psychological selectivity. You can be aware after that of those encounters also. There are implications I am not expressing adequately, and it may be impossible to do so. In a manner of speaking, the gentleman's noted hall. They said visit. While Ruber is doing the Jane's book, conveys an intent on Jane's part that he had in life. The event, again, in a way is even separate from Rupert's present connection with James, but followed as a result of James' living curiosity regarding highly gifted mediums that might exist after his death. Had he been living, he would have sought Rupert out, you see, and they would have gotten along famously. You and James would also have been excellent friends. The three of you meet each other in time. In other frameworks, however, you are friends, hence Rupert's book and your first attraction to James' writings. That James, however, is, of course, as he says, the William James that he was, and yet is no more the same William James. As the child and the adult are one person and yet are not. Consciousness can be put together in many ways, and you use your own consciousness in ways that presently at least escape you, even though the results may be quite objective. The encounter and Miss Denon and your friends, again, is a case in point. The meeting was real in your terms, yet the manipulations of consciousness behind it were largely unknown. In those terms, James is aware of the whole connection. It is only because so many of the manipulations of your own consciousness are unknown to you in life that such issues appear at. You are indeed colleagues of James, and in a way, the unconventional Dr. Hall carries out, in his own fashion, some of James' living intents or questions. Hall works more directly with the body. It is rather that he accepted some of James' questions as he understood them through his teaching, and allowed these to merge with questions of his own. It is as if you hand on challenges or questions to others, which they accept for their own reasons, and hence follow through for you in areas in which you might be highly interested, even though in some cases they might have been sidelines in your own work. Now I bid you a fond good evening. Ross said, okay. They said, I do want to mention that relaxation will definitely quicken all areas of Rupert's improvement, releasing the neck tendons and so forth, so that the eyes will stabilize in good vision. The hat towers will also benefit. A fond good evening to you both. Ross said, thank you very much, says good night.